What's the one thing that ruined your health? Story 1. Cancer. I've had it 3 separate times, as in it didn't spread, and I'm not 40 for another year. I'm down 3 organs. I'm one of those millennials who worked 3 jobs while putting themselves through school full-time and living on my own since I was 19. I wonder how much chronic stress has contributed to my illnesses. Answer: just turned 45, still in the middle of fighting cancer. So far, I'm winning, but that can change with little warning. I am down a gallbladder, fallopian tubes, and part of my liver, and a lot of my muscle mass. Still yet to tackle part of my colon and my uterus. I had all my parts before this and never even broken a bone. Cancer is sneaky, and it's so easy to dismiss the little warnings as just everyday aches and pains. Get your colonoscopies, people. Story 2. Childhood trauma, which led to blocking all physical body responses to stress, pretending it never happened. I did not realize until I was 40 years old and had a complete psychological and emotional breakdown. 30 years of masking pain, thinking abuse was love, holding my anger and rage because I am a kind person and I do not hurt others type of thinking. After my malignant narcissist husband stole everything from me, I started having horrible nighttime chest pain, always at night when I was sleeping. I would break out in cold sweat from the pain. I was diagnosed with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which is colloquially called broken heart syndrome. Then 10 months later, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I weighed 115 kilograms and did not eat junk food. My blood work was so high in glucose that my doc called me at night to request I come in the next day. Stress had made my cortisol skyrocket. My liver was dumping sugar into my blood with every panic attack. My heart was ready to stop working. Answer: I was intimacy assaulted multiple times by my ex-partner and had some childhood issues, narcissistic father, etc. And I also got to the point where I was having chest pain. I would get these panic attacks to the point where it felt like I had a Victorian age corset on, squeezing and crushing my ribs, diaphragm, chest, etc. I would get burning hot. I would shake. My limbs would go numb. I went to the ER once because I thought I was having a legit heart attack. They did every test under the sun, but it was all fine. I at one point couldn't drive. Quit my job. It got so bad. I would see flashes of light in my vision or colors all the time. I was dizzy and tense. I thought I was going crazy or into psychosis. I even went to get checked for a stroke or aneurysm. It was all trauma. Nothing helped until I started EMDR with a licensed trauma therapist. It was extremely difficult, but once I got over the hump, it was life-changing. Story 3. My ex-husband got an STD and didn't bother telling me. By the time I discovered what was causing me to be so ill, I needed to have a full hysterectomy. I was 26 years old. 25 years later, I found out that I should have been on hormone patches. I should have had them from the initial hysterectomy, but I hadn't had them, so I developed osteoporosis. It was a series of medical problems, and I suffered because my ex couldn't keep his DK in his pants. Sometimes the consequences of others' actions aren't good. Story 4. Genetics. I come from generations of people with serious, largely unacknowledged mental health issues that led to physical damage and illness. The combination of genetics and environment meant I already had migraines and anxiety when I was a toddler. Story 5. Not being taken seriously by doctors. I had both horrific period pain, caused by a real thing, and really bad migraines, also caused by a real thing, and it took over a decade to get both of them addressed correctly. In that decade, I had to take so much OTC pain meds that it's completely ruined the lining of my stomach, and I keep getting ulcers. Story 6. It was drinking adult beverages for me excessively. The spiral of neglect that followed my recurring binges really took a toll. Days in bed, bad food, smoking, substances. I dislike to recall how I treated myself. Glad to report that I've left that in the past, and my health and fitness have improved enormously. Long may it continue. Story 7. My parents raised me with the idea that our family is just bad at sports, so I shouldn't even try to do any. Never taught me how to ride a bike, ski, swim, nothing. I finally learned to do some physical activity in my late 20s, and I love it. I'm still surprised that I'm able to build muscle T. Story 8. COVID. COVID lost me my job that I was getting an average of 7 m a day walking, amplified my depression, and I never adjusted my eating habits to accommodate my lack of physical movement and rapidly worsening depression. Weight gain led to back problems, which led to more weight gain and immobility. I'm still trying to dig myself out of this hole, but it's a tough process. Story 9. Mono. I didn't have it until I was 29 and it completely wiped me out. I was off work for about a month. I couldn't do anything without needing a nap. I felt like I was never going to recover, and I basically didn't. I never returned to my pre-viral levels of energy or health, no matter what I did. Then I got multiple sclerosis, which they believe requires a viral trigger, amongst other things. So from the age of 30, I've been legally disabled. All due to mono, a cytomegalovirus that the vast majority of people have by their teens. Story 10. Blood clot found its way to my heart. Heart attack at 36. Genuinely turned my life upside down. Don't take your health for granted. It underpins quite literally everything else. Hobbies, career, traveling, independence, happiness. The list goes on and on. Story 11. COVID. I never really recovered my sense of taste and smell, developed diabetes type 2 afterwards, and ever since I've also had sleep apnea episodes, which we're currently looking into. My vision went from 2020 to, if I don't wear glasses, I won't be able to see the wall in front of me until I hit it. I can't work out as well as I used to, and have been mostly strength training and jogging because running will give me chest pains. For some reason, ever since I got COVID, I also can't eat spicy stuff. It will literally burn my mouth and no one can explain why. It's a shame because spicy is one of the few things I can still taste. People used to tell me I was a really good cook too, and now everything I cook is too salty or sweet or sour for everyone. I used to love cooking. Story 12. COVID. First time I got it was at the end of 2021, and it tore up my lungs so bad I got long COVID and developed severe asthma. To a point I am now on 4 asthma medications to just breathe normally. I can breathe better now, but I still have a long way to get to a normal range for a 30-year-old. Story 13. Lack of motivation, lack of will to do anything. I won't say I'm tragic end, but I'm not also exactly trying to survive, if it makes sense. Because of that, every time I try thinking about making a healthy dinner or something, I'm like, who care? And end up getting something to microwave or just bread with something. I am far from being obese though. I don't overeat, just badly. Story 14. Me, but I did it with adult beverage. Almost eliminate me. Now I believe most of our well-being comes from our minds. Positive, loving self-talk is something I had to learn. Now I enjoy good health and happiness. Also, thanks for asking. It gave me some joy sharing this here. Story 15. Cancer. I had to get my ovaries removed and it plunged me into being postmenopausal. My hands and toes go randomly numb. My whole body aches and hurts. My hair is falling out and my skin is dry. I can't sleep. It has worsened my depression and became infertile whilst I was trying for a baby has messed me up. Story 16. Depression robbed me of most of my youth, and it's only since my mid-20s that I've done the work and gotten some growth out of the misery I experience. Physically, I never took care of myself, so having to change years of neglect and poor choices is not fun. Drink plenty of water, try to eat healthy, take care of my teeth, stretch, get good sleep. Best of luck to anyone fighting the good fight. Story 17. Mononucleosis. Instead of just getting swollen lymph nodes in my neck and bad lethargy, I ended up with a horrible eczema outbreak, gastroparesis, and intestinal damage too. I spent the better part of 3 years vomiting, especially at night, then 5 years of vomiting about 3 out of 7 days a week. After that, I have the occasional flare-up once a month, then a few times a year. Story 18. Glandular fever that led to chronic fatigue in my mid-20s. I'm mostly myself now, but it absolutely screwed my immune system, fertility, and the way my body metabolizes substance medication. Also messed with my brain for years, if not that, shattering and dislocating my ankle in my 30s. Got fixed as well as could be expected, but I was never able to run again, and it threw my whole body off balance long-term. Story 19. Honestly, my health has been declining since starting sedentary 9-to-5 jobs. It's weird because I'm a computer nerd, but I don't think the human body is meant to stare at a screen for 8-12 hours a day. I think a gym break somewhere in the day should be mandatory. Story 20. Stopped riding my horse. I never thought about all the exercise it took to keep up the barn and care for my horses until it was gone. My horses were never work to me, they were my joy. Now I can no longer even pick up a bag of feed. Should never have stopped doing what I loved. Story 21. If we are talking about mental health, then working as a hotel night porter. My mental health had always been a little ropey, but that place gave me a full-on mental breakdown. It's been a long road to getting close to how I was beforehand. My view on the general public is still marred, shall we say, by the things I saw there. Story 22. Drinking. It exacerbated my mental health issues to the point of psychosis at the level I was drinking at and kept me depressed for months. It was so bad that I did not know if my thoughts were real and made me angry and aggressive to people that I love. Story 23. A combination of natural delayed sleep phase, bipolar disorder, and years of terrible sleep hygiene have made my circadian rhythm almost non-existent and my sleep schedule incredibly inconsistent. It means I can't keep a job without a lot of flexibility in the hours that I work, and I can only work part-time because I am literally always tired. I also have femoral retroversion. My femurs are angled outwards, which causes duck feet. It has affected my posture a lot and caused excruciating back pain when I walk or try to exercise. Story 24. Not prioritizing sleep, that led to poor recovery from my workouts, which led to a herniated disc. It also absolutely takes my testosterone levels. It got to the point that I started having very brief dizzy spells, which didn't bother me much until I had one while driving. Now, I aim for at least 6 hours a night and average 7.5 hours. I still have to take medicine for my testosterone, but overall I feel so much better. Story 25. This may sound surprising, but pregnancy messed up my health. Because of pregnancy, she had messed up hips, back, dental, and mental emotional health. Pregnancy even caused a brain bleed in the 3rd trimester that I'm still getting MRIs for since they couldn't treat it while I was still pregnant. Having my baby girl is beautiful and amazing, and I would do it again, but I would have at least mentally prepared myself for all the complications that came about. Story 26. Eating junk food every single day. It probably was a consequence of poor mental health, but anyway, it gave me bad acid reflux, and now I have to really control what I eat to avoid it. The silver lining is that I found out that I love almond milk, chocolate beverages, ha ha ha. Story 27. Being severely overweight my entire life, and now that I lost weight, my joints don't have that cushion they relied on for so many years. So I'm in constant pain coupled with peripheral neuropathy. If I had lost weight earlier in life, I wouldn't have these problems. I'm not even 40 yet, but I have the joint health of an 80-year-old. Story 28. Adult beverage. Brain took 2 years to reboot and start reorganizing. Unfortunately, it's remembered literally everything, including the painful memories I forgot, which now conflicts with memories I thought were good. So that's been my experience all year. Oh, adult beverage, you suck big hairy coconuts. Story 29. Having a Dunkin' Donuts location at my place of work combined with depression and no knowledge of nutrition. But I got into fitness and nutrition and I've lost the weight I gained. Haven't had a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel since, and I never will again. Story 30. Genetics. I inherited a lot of chronic illnesses and medical predispositions from both of my parents' sides of the family. After my first diagnosis, it was all over. More and more followed. They've all built on each other like some sort of domino effect. Now, I have to take a handful of pills just to function. Story 31. My spine did a pretty good job of twisting and bending me like a pretzel. I had major spinal fusion surgery to correct T4 pelvis fusion, W and ALF, cage, and a spacer. 1 year out, and I'm 5 in taller and kicking butt lifting weights. I coached my son's summer baseball team. Never would have been able to do it prior to being fixed. Story 32. Breaking my leg knee. I am not exercising enough, and I am avoiding work that I used to just jump into. I feel that my circulation isn't working correctly because when I stand up, my feet hurt, which started after the accident that left me unable to walk for 6 months. Everything is harder because I have to deal with pain. Story 33. I got exposed to blastomycosis either when I was fighting forest fires or in the Army, each said it was the other's responsibility, with lodged in my skull and resulted in emergency brain surgery to remove an abscess that was about 5 weeks away from eliminate me. A combination of forced bed rest and rather powerful medication I was on following it caused me to put on about 150 lums in a year. Story 34. Getting into a car accident, I was working as a public transit driver when I was cut off by a group of teenagers in a stolen car. I ended up slamming them into a tree. They jumped out of the car and ran off. I was 33 years old. I'm now 41. I have permanent damage to my lower back, L5 and L6. My sciatic nerve is always on fire, and I had to leave my job. I thought I recovered and got a new job at the post office. Thankfully, I'm doing semi-all right, but there are days I can barely walk. I put on almost 100 pounds during my recovery and am slowly losing it all with the walking I'm doing now at work, but I'll never be the same. Story 35. Doctors not listening when I told them something was wrong, then half-assing my colonoscopy so that they missed the colon cancer that is now spread through my body. I am 50 with stage 4. It's in my abdomen and lung as well, and the original tumor has grown back in my rectum. Story 36. cancer that has no known cause. So probably drinking? It broke my neck by dissolving a vertebrae, causing 2 huge tumors that were painful, dozens of tiny bone tumors, inability to use my left arm, inability to walk, inability to cough or sneeze, surgery and lots of chemo, and we're almost to remission. I'll do this treatment over and over for the rest of my life unless they develop a cure. Story 37. Lifelong immunocompromised. Managed with it well until my second semester of uni, even through an abusive marriage, which I'm sure had a hand in my health. My dad passed in '95 and it's all gone downhill since. Was diagnosed with clinical depression since I was a teen, but got re-diagnosed as bipolar 2 in the late '90s, and that changed my mental health for the better. Super stressed through my second marriage, still in it. I have no other options right now. Broke, disabled, constant stress. When we first met, I was still pretty healthy considering. Not anymore, 23 years. Started with CFSME and now have that. Fibro, ADHD, CPTSD, COPD, anxiety, aspects of BPD, but not officially diagnosed. Since getting married this time, I've lost a baby, ectopic, and my ability to have any, a very rare retinal disease that has damaged my retinas beyond repair, which they think may be autoimmune. It's so rare there haven't been enough studies on it. Treatment is immunosuppressants. I also now have myasthenia gravis, a rare neuromuscular disease that causes weakness of the skeletal muscles. I have had food drink go out my nose. I choke on them too. I have double vision and dreary eyelids when I'm not medicated, and a slew of other symptoms. Like my lungs could decide, nah, we're not working today, and I could wind up on a vent. Just an example, hasn't happened yet. So the things have piled one on top of the other until it's a mountain of health problems. Expensive and exhausting. Story 38. Nicotine is awful, man. The damage. Lungs, stamina, male body part, brain, focus, mood, everything. It creeps up on you. It's one of the most addictive substances out there. They kind of classify nicotine and other things like adult beverage, LSD, shrooms, ecto, as extremely addictive and all equally as dangerous in school. This way of teaching substances was actually detrimental to me because I drink and found how socially acceptable, non-addictive it was in moderation. Done my fair share of other substances and didn't get addicted or have any terrible side effects. Take Adderall often and don't have an addiction. So I figured, how bad can nicotine be? Pretty bad, man, pretty bad. Story 39. Apparently catching measles as a baby. It's been pretty interesting to research. Apparently it completely wipes your immune system and screws it up permanently. I became immunocompromised, which led to my psoriasis, which led to my arthritis. I have fibromyalgia too, and a shoot immune system. I can't deal with anti-vax people at all because of it. Story 40. 12-hour night shift. It was only about 18 months, but I'm willing to bet it aged me 5 years, especially when COVID hit and my kids were home during the day. I would go 4 to 5 days with only 2-3 hours of sleep each day. I was consuming around 1 g of caffeine each day, Zizquil to sleep. It was terrible. Story 41. Not knowing I had celiac disease and probably having either prediabetes or full-blown diabetes, not sure which. I have since found out that I am celiac, gone keto, and reversed all of my diabetic symptoms, so I'm in a pretty good spot right now. Turns out celiac disease was causing the majority of my depression and anxiety as well. Story 42. COVID-19, I stopped working out because of the authorities, swimming and surfing, and gained 88 lumps, of which I've only lost 30. 4 of my weird friends died because they didn't get vaccinated, and I'm thankful to have survived the vaccines and getting COVID 4 times, but this weight gain and my lack of willpower suck. Story 43. Not being aware about that vitamin D matters a lot. Like most of my health issue, not serious honestly, was somehow related to sun. I noticed whenever I was under the sun a long time, I kind of got better. So tracing back, all my problems since lockdown, COVID and staying indoors and no sunlight, like less sleep and less drive to do things. I would say get sunlight or take supplements for vitamin D. Story 44. Emotional and financial abuse that once I was free from, I started to binge eat and gained about 100 pounds. After that, when I was starting to recover, I caught COVID, and now I have heart issues and lung issues, so working out is pretty much a no-go for me now. Story 45. Getting 2 concussions plus COVID in the span of 3 months has rendered me so disabled, I can barely feed myself and will likely never be able to support myself or have a real life again. If you get a concussion or COVID, rest, eat, and rest, and nothing else. Do not throw your entire life away because you are too impatient to get better. Story 46. I got a serious staph infection that came back 8 times. I was on strong antibiotics for over a year altogether. It caused an H. pylori infection in my digestive tract. The constant inflammation and poor gut health led to ulcerative colitis, a digestive disease. I was put on a medication for it for over a year, but unbeknownst to me, and my previous doctors didn't check, I was allergic to it and it caused liver damage. So now I have 2 diseases and I'll eventually need a liver transplant, thanks to a staph infection. Story 47. Ill placed my vote with an adult beverage. Am 33 YRs sober, but it nearly destroyed me in my 20s. Its affect on my body is still being felt. My kidneys, gut, and liver were badly damaged. Yes, adult beverage can cause cancer, increasing the risk of at least 7 types, including breast, liver, and throat cancers. If you think you have a problem, you do. Only alcoholics think about the amount they consume. Story 48. Smoking for 35 years. About 10 years of adult beverage abuse and copious amounts of substances probably shortened my life expectancy, but boy did I have a lot of fun and have some outstanding stories. I stopped smoking and doing substances 5 years ago because the body said it was time to do so, and I feel great now. However, I'm sure I won't be making it to 100. LOL. Story 49. Honestly, first and foremost, negative thinking and drama and living my life that sort of way. It was the way I was raised, and I didn't realize life could be different till my late 20s. On top of that, I always felt crushing shame and guilt for simply being alive, as I felt I was a burden and really didn't want to have my life, as my parents had to spend money to give me free living as a child. I always felt so terrible about that, and it was hard for me to cope with as an adult that I had parted my dad with so much of money when he didn't want kids in the first place. Or at least if he had to have kids, he'd wanted a boy and not a daughter. I also was born with a heart defect. I didn't realize how much it was affecting me till I got open heart surgery in my early 30s. My parents didn't want me to get it as a kid because they didn't want me to be ugly because of the scar. My dad was really mad when he found out I was getting open heart surgery BC. He didn't want to come to the hospital to visit me BC, though he doesn't work. His parents made him a multimillionaire, so he never had to. Exercising and taking walks is super important to him, so I wouldn't expect him to come to the ICU to see me. Which is fine, BC. I don't want to spend time talking about what a badass he is while I'm fresh out of surgery, LOL. Really, since my parents haven't been in my life, it feels way different not waking up to chaos and yelling and drama and fighting and guilt and getting cut down and demeaned simply for having a life you didn't ask for. It does a ton to simply be grateful and have a positive outlook and attitude. I had tried saying as much to my parents, but they felt I was out of touch and needed a reality check and was in denial of how awful and terrible life is. I feel like you sort of make your own reality. It took me till my mid-30s to form this mindset for myself. Not every day is perfect or ideal even, and I feel really ashamed of myself for, I guess, having what I would consider a late start in life. But I'm really grateful for having the ability to simply not feel like waking up and starting the day is equivalent to a nuke being dropped on you and you're getting assaulted from all sides, if that makes sense. Even though I have like a ton of nightmares every night, which makes me feel tired often, I'm just so grateful to wake up upset from my nightmares instead of the sheer guttural fear that used to hit me when I'd wake up at every day. I'm very, very, very grateful for that. Story 50. Vaping. Never, ever try it. My lung capacity has probably dropped below 50 of what it was before I started. I cannot go up a half flight of stairs, the height of stairs without getting winded. I can't go longer than 45 minutes or 1 hour without vaping, or it's all I can think about. It causes me bad breath, even with decent oral hygiene. I'm very worried about one of my lungs collapsing or getting popcorn lung. Seriously, never hit a vape ever. I've read that they are a lot stronger than cigarettes, and even those are hard to quit. Personally, I've tried quitting a few times and had no success. I just cannot stick to a schedule to wean myself off. Not right now, anyway. And because of this, it's negatively impacted my mental health. Story 51. Not as serious as the other responses here, but I often tell a story of how I ate a Jack in the Box Supreme Croissant combo every school day during my freshman year of HS carpooling to school with my best friends. It probably changed the trajectory of my athletic career and overall health. Story 52. Seizures. Too many of them. It's cost me my career, friends, mental health and mobility, freedom and finances. I've tried to exit this plane several times due to it. If that's not destroyed health, I don't know what is. The type I have doesn't respond to medication, so I am basically told to not stress out too much and just deal with them. Story 53. Anorexia binge restrict cycle when I was 15, 17 caused stomach shrinking, constant nausea and frequent puking, shoot immune system, exacerbated my chronic illness, low iron, terrible nutrition, bad relationship with eating, and weight fluctuations that made me lose 25-30 pounds in like a month and then gain 60 pounds in like 2 months when I flipped in the opposite direction and solely binged instead of recovering that, and my OCD and depression causing me to live in a black mold-infested bedroom for months. Mold sickness is no joke, dude. Caused immune issues, chronic fatigue, and chronic joint pain exacerbated my chronic illness, as well as my depression. Ended up having to clean out my room and throw out a bunch of shoot, and my health immediately improved so much upon living in a clean environment. Having a clean environment is a human right for a reason. Everyone deserves help and support. 3. Story 54. Not wearing a mask when I should have. I was doing some work in my kid's treehouse and didn't follow proper procedures working in a confined space. Inhaled some spray foam and cement dust in pretty high concentrations and haven't breathed the same since. Story 55. In my 20s, I did copious amounts of cocaine and then meth. Got to be the healthiest I had ever been in my life afterwards. Intense, prolonged grief, 2019-2023, completely fudged my body up, and I still haven't been able to recover. Not sure if I ever will, TBH. Story 56. My own immune system. I started having severe allergies and asthma as an infant, and it continued through childhood. I was miserable and couldn't play sports, climb trees, or go outside for parts of the year. At the age of 13, the switch flipped and the allergies went away, but suddenly I started having joint pain and numbness in my hands and feet. Now, as a 55-year-old adult, I have 7 different autoimmune diseases, including MS, fibromyalgia, and RA, and I still have never climbed a tree. Story 57. Being overweight, which led me to have bad acid reflux that I didn't get checked for years, which led me to develop tinnitus in my left ear. Good thing the tinnitus is very mild, so I only really hear it when the room's very quiet. But yeah, I need some kind of white noise all the time now. That was my wake-up call to take my health and weight more seriously. Story 58. Ecstasy. I remember learning freshman year of college that one dose does devastating and seemingly permanent damage to dopamine receptors, and we aren't certain of the full impact of what this means. I took 1 dose in 2018, and my life fell apart after, but so slowly and subtly it took me forever to pinpoint the origin. Before my 1 dose of Molly, I was extremely fit, healthy, driven, doing well in my office career, socializing constantly, and all of this even with existing anxiety and depression issues. I've gained 50 pounds since then, spiraled in my career until I'd lost it, which actually was a blessing in disguise for my income because I quit that field and started my own business, which made my income 10x higher. Became asexual, lost all self-control, and have become increasingly addicted to plant substance and adult beverage as time passes, and can barely function in regards to chores, bills, cleaning, responsibility, etc. All indicators of severe dopamine issues. And it all started with half a little pill that felt amazing for 8 hours. Story 59. The Army. I have a spinal injury at 24. I'm 27 now, and I had to trade my love for the outdoors with tolerating being inside and not traveling. Never seen combat, so I feel ashamed for being medically separated because I couldn't perform my job as a combat medic with a messed up spine. ER visits were about once a month because of how easy a flare-up would happen. I wouldn't be able to walk. 27, and I can't go hiking or camping anymore in case I hurt my back by sneezing. I'd have to be rescued. It's depressing and hurts me on all fronts of my life. I feel ashamed for being injured significantly without some reasonable story to go with it. Story 60. All I wanted was for my mental health and mood to be stabilized, not to fluctuate so dramatically with my hormonal cycle. Instead of giving me an antidepressant as I'd asked for, I was prescribed a birth control pill because I'm female. It nearly eliminated me. Over the course of the month, I started slowly having some issues, but brushed it off as my asthma just acting up due to it being winter. I had huge bruises on my legs, but I'm clumsy as heck. Then I became extremely nauseous and blacked out. I couldn't walk more than 10 steps without feeling like I was having a heart attack. My resting heart rate was 130. I was taken to the ER where it was discovered I had bilateral pulmonary embolisms in all 5 lobes of my lungs and was immediately put on an aggressive dose of blood thinners, spending a week in the hospital. Had I waited another day, I probably wouldn't be here. This was 2 years ago, come February. I just turned 30 this year, and I'm still struggling with the recovery. I get winded going up the stairs in my own house. My heart rate spikes randomly. I develop medical PTSD, and my anxiety is just that much worse whenever I feel something is just a touch off. My doctor believes I have post-PE syndrome, which there is no real treatment for and can last up to 3 years. At least, that's as far as the studies have gone. Beyond that, I'm not able to have anything containing estrogen. I will likely be at high risk whenever I do decide to get pregnant, and I'll always be predisposed to future clots. After giving me 2 or 3 other non-hormonal birth controls that also made no difference, my doctor finally put me on a normal antidepressant, and what do you know? It worked nearly instantly in stabilizing my moods. It's too bad my mental health is otherwise shattered due to a serious decline in quality of life from all the complications I'm dealing with from the whole ordeal. Story 61. Sports as a kid-teen tore my ACL, which I had repaired, but which has now developed into fairly severe arthritis, only in my mid-40s, and having my bell rung. We didn't use the word concussion back then, which I think is starting to cause some memory issues. The knee thing is bad, though keeps me from doing a lot of activities, which has led me to being too sedentary, which leads to health issues. Also, there was no one to point out that going from being a fairly intense athlete to a sedentary adult would require a fairly significant change of diet. Food I had been encouraged to eat a lot of seemed like a normal way to eat, and it was fine through college, but adult life didn't do well with it. I'm not able to play sports with my own kids. I can shoot hoops but not play basketball, and when they were little it was painful to get down and play with them. I think a lot about whether it was worth it, and generally conclude it was. I'm still very good friends with most of the people I played sports with, but we'll see how the head injury thing develops as I age. That might change the equation. Story 62. Not ruined necessarily, but I had a stint with disordered eating in high school because jerks on social media don't just let fat people be, and it's easy to internalize that shoot as a teen. Starved myself and ended up tanking the speed of my metabolism. It's still not recovered 7 years later. It's super easy for me to gain weight now and nearly impossible to lose it. If I had a healthy relationship with food back then, I would probably be much fitter, feel better within myself, and actually be healthier in the present. It's been hard, but I'm learning to eat healthy exercise for the healthy rather than for the looks. I won't ever be skinny, but that's okay. Story 63. Adult beverage, never a heavy drinker. I'm into sports, etc. But when I have my cheat days, I've gotten in habits of drinking IPAs over the weekend, then the next weekend, and so on. And before you know it, I gained a good amount of weight and look swollen and feel sluggish within a few weekends. Takes more hard work to get back to feeling my normal self. So even not having a problem, necessarily adult beverage is just so unhealthy for you in so many ways. Oh, and social media 100, story 64. An infection when I was a teen that led to CFS and fibromyalgia. It's the same that many are experiencing with long COVID. Whatever the virus infection, if there's a chance you'll end up with life-altering effects from it, do whatever you can to avoid getting it. I got so sick of hearing about COVID deniers, people who refuse to wear a mask, or conspiracies about the vaccine. The truth is I trust in science and in medical experts. Nothing is foolproof, and we're obviously still learning about COVID. The reality is, though, some viruses or infections can cause you to have horrendous after effects, while other people could recover 100. It's sad to think of how many people are suffering with long COVID, only to have other people blame it on the vaccine or deny it altogether. We need research and education, not shoot behavior towards people in need. Story 65. Caregiving really wiped me out, along with the booze I used to forget. Looking back, I'm thankful I was able to do it, but man, the USA does nothing to help caregivers. And that being said, I don't know what should be done, but since retirement homes cost at least $5,000 a month, something should be done. If this feels familiar, check out the Subs Aging Parents and Our Dementia for support. Story 66. Being overweight most of my life. I'm 22 years old and have been overweight since I was probably 10, 11. And now I've been diagnosed with an enlarged fatty liver, had a diabetes scare, knees, ankles, feet are constantly in pain. I have IBS, which is causing very bad pain, among other things. I've never taken it seriously at any point in my life, not even when doctors warned me that this would happen. I always brushed it off as not that serious or it'll lose the weight soon. Now I'm paying for it. I've been told if I don't lose the weight, my enlarged fatty liver will either give me diabetes, cancer, or just eliminate me eventually. It has scared the shoot out of me and really made me do a 180 in my mindset. I've started to eat better, move more, and will soon go on a weight loss medication to help me even more. Story 67. Autism. I was diagnosed when I was 40. I had so much anxiety that it made me depressed. I would overeat, and at my worst was 420 bulbs. I started using green stuff. Anxiety dropped. I stopped overeating for my emotions. I slowly learned I had autism and was having constant sensory issues and never realized it. Story 68. Mold poisoning from living in FL rental. I was diagnosed with a stomach disease from throwing up almost every day for a year and was prescribed meds. When I moved out, I was able to get off meds and slowly got better. Landlord's special of painting over it again and again. Story 69. I developed Cushing's disease about 7-8 years ago. Even though I have been in remission since my brain surgery in 2020, the Cushing's has ruined my body in multiple ways, and I'm having a hard time coming to terms with it. I also have treatment-resistant depression and type 1 diabetes, so those haven't been great for my health either. Story 70. Autism and all of the very fun things that come along with it, such as debilitating anxiety and stress and lack of sleep. My body feels like I'm 80 years old, but I'm only 29, and it will never be easier. I have to deal with this my whole life. Even with therapy and coping mechanisms, my body and mental health will never be the same after being undiagnosed for most of my life up until last year, being told to suck it up for nearly 3 decades. Story 71. COVID in 2020. Perfectly healthy, 36-year-old pre-COVID, lifting weights, hiking, working hard on my business. Complete immune system meltdown within weeks of recovering. I still have post-exertional malaise, reduced ejection fraction in my heart, lactic acidosis, POTS, cognitive dysfunction, and a slew of other issues. I know spontaneous recovery is possible this far out, but it's rare. It was not unexpected that there would be a post-acute condition. It happened in Spanish flu, happened in the last SARS, happened with Ebola, etc. What is frustrating is that there are literally 0 treatments, very little research, and 400 people worldwide that have this. I am lucky that I have my own business, but every day is a waking nightmare. You can't exercise or think your way out of cancer. Why people think you can with COVID is beyond me. Story 72. Mine is kind of lame with all these people who suffered a life-threatening illness. My right hip ball and socket were not working, had excessive pain, could barely walk, could not move leg to the right. If I tried to straddle my bike, I couldn't lift that leg up to get on it. Hiking, hell, even shopping was too much. Went to ortho who took an x-ray, then told me he'd send me to physical therapy and to the pain clinic for steroid shots. But I would not be getting a hip replacement because I was too young. I'm 53. I spent the next year in pain. Because I could barely walk, I gained weight. I was fairly active before this. Physical therapy worked on me for a year but told me there really wasn't anything they could do because it was a bone issue. I finally requested to see head of ortho. He sent me for more tests, then told me he'd have replaced my hip. Hip replaced, but during that year and 5 months I was debilitated, that my muscles in my core were barely enough to keep me upright for long. My stomach and back muscles hurt so bad if I stand for more than 10 minutes that it is hard to do it. Makes me mad. If he had done it when this started causing problems, I'd have still been in decent shape. Story 73. My sister had a horrible, but you could describe him as demonic. The stress gave her ovarian cancer. I wished she hadn't stayed as long as she did, but she was raising her son alone and needed the job. Everyone disliked him. When he left, no one said bye. Story 74. COVID. Before I caught it the first time, I literally got sick every 4 or 5 years. It wrecked my immune system, and in these 3 years, I've been sick so many times, sometimes for months at a time. The other thing was falling in love. When my now husband and I got together, all balanced eating and exercise went out the window. I don't blame him at all. It's my own fault, my own decisions. I don't know what it is about being around him that just makes me want to indulge. But I've gained quite a bit of weight, and admittedly, that's probably not helped my immune system either. Story 75. Car accident, wife passing in 2020. I lost my house because I lost her income, was in hospital for 3 years, punted put of hospital into an adult beverage substances house where I boarded for another year. Horrible place. I now walk with a major limp as both my legs were rebuilt. Canberra, in Australia, is shocking how they put people in dark corners of the world and let them suffer in isolation misery. If I were a female or a youth, I was told there are pathways. Not for me, though. Story 76. Stress. I was under so much stress when I was married to a loser. That stress manifested in chronic pain, aggravated fibromyalgia, and my bipolar issues. 20 years of never knowing if he would keep a job, help with housework, or just do something stupid that cost us money. Story 77. COVID, not the disease, but the inactivity of staying at home for 2 years. I loved it, but man, it's taking a long time to get back into any semblance of fitness. My back hurts. I get winded walking a quarter mile, whereas before COVID, I could walk 10 miles without breaking a sweat. My blood pressure is up, and I look like shoot. Story 78, Years of Deep Depression. I didn't leave the house. If I did, it was to drink or go buy cigarettes. I didn't really take enough insulin, which made my body eat itself. I'm doing better now, but I'm still dealing with adult beverage issues and nicotine addiction. But I get out of bed in the morning. I take better care of myself and improving where necessary. I'm in better shape now than I've ever been physically. Mentally, I'm still fudge, but I'm working on it. Story 79. As a frontline worker, I inhaled too many novel spike proteins back in March of 2020. PAS left me with brain inflammation and mitochondrial separation, keeping me homebound 5-12 years with no FDA-approved treatments at this time for myalgic encephalomyelitis. Story 80. Intestinal parasites, twice. The first time I was overseas, I had multiple types of parasites, and they really settled in, but the treatment cleared them, and I was instantly better. The second time I drank water from a fountain in a park here in the U.S. and didn't realize I was infected for a month because I thought my symptoms were caused by stress and overwork. The treatment was much harder on my body and caused me to retain fluid and develop high blood pressure. Story 81. My ex-betrayals. It was like an ongoing snow avalanche. My mental health was the first thing hit, then my physical health followed up. I'm still recovering. The healing process started when I realized I can't fix anything on my own. It needs to be a team effort, so I quit. It's been liberating since then. Story 82. Insomnia. It has affected my mental health multiple times. This in turn affects my relationships and my relationship with work. Ended up in the ER once with stress-induced arrhythmia, which I'm sure was connected to my lack of sleep and work stress. It once got so bad that I was literally falling asleep mid-sentence sitting at my kitchen table. I'm afraid of what I may run into as I age. So far, my heart seems okay, but I get scared it won't be great for long. I'm hoping my love for exercise helps keep anything bad at bay for a while longer. Story 83. We get fires on the west coast of the USA. Many years ago, one bad season of many fires with constant and continual pollution in the air for over a month, you could not see any sky for over a month, negatively affected my health, and I never recovered. Story 84. Arthritis. Developed it at 50, am now 70. I've had both hips and both shoulders replaced and haven't had a day without pain for 20 years. Chronic pain changes you. Things could be so much worse, and I'm grateful for the life I have. But yeah, I could do without hurting all the darn time. Story 85. Januvia. In 2012, my doctor changed my diabetes medication from Actose to Januvia. I took one pill Sunday morning and then one pill Monday morning. Monday afternoon, I didn't feel well and had a bad stomach ache, so I went home early from work. I got worse all night long. Tuesday morning, I was in horrible pain and couldn't get to any of my doctors, so I went to the ER. I was sure I was having pancreatitis, and I was. My lipase was over 3,000 U. It did lots of damage, pseudocysts, inflammation, high fever, etc. It did so much damage I ended up with idiopathic recurrent acute pancreatitis, or IRAP. I had dozens of acute attacks over the next 5 years. It was awful and wrecked my health. I lost 40 salves, became an insulin-dependent diabetic, and it was extremely painful. I had to take 16 milliliters of dilaudid ivoic a day for months at a time. When I was better, it took 6 months to reduce the pain meds, but then another attack would come. Sometimes the pain was so bad, no amount of medication would help, leaving me alone in my hospital room screaming in agony for hours and days. Eventually, my pancreas burned out and the attacks stopped. I haven't been to the ER in 5 years. I'm thankful it's over, but it'll never be the same or okay again. That kind of pain leaves permanent PTSD. This has truly been awful and I will never be over it. Story 86. For me personally, it was TikTok. I disliked just the intense FOMO I would get from the app. And it doesn't help that the algorithm is extremely addicting and catered especially to you. It knows you best. The Chinese algorithm is scary to think about how accurately they know what you want to see or what will pique your interest. I always got FOMO and would compare my life to others nonstop. Story 87. Working overnight. I think I physically aged some 10 years after working overnight for a year or two. Of course, it wasn't just working overnight, but the things that came with it too. It's harder to sleep properly, eat well, exercise, etc. when you work overnight. My under eyes went from healthy and youthful to very deep and hollow. Mentally also, I felt I was always on the edge. All in all, I was very young and it was fine, but I would not recommend or do it again unless I really needed to. Story 88. Antidepressants. Just a few months of use and then stopping disabled me for 2 years. I'm past 2.5 years off and still suffering a lot. Turns out it's actually a known reaction that psychiatry and the substances companies put a fair bit of effort into not warning people about. Story 89. Breast cancer. I was 27 and although the chemo and surgeries were needed, it fudged up my metabolism, my hair, my sensitivity to light, my toenails, my muscles. It's taken me so long to regain great physical strength, and I'm still limited with my chest especially, but I'm making progress. As much as it wrecked my body, it was a blessing in disguise in a way. Hard to explain. Story 90. It's really very individual. I never had one hot flash, no symptoms whatsoever. My mother had it terribly. It wasn't like I was a model of health. I ate fairly well and walked a couple miles a day, but not a triathlete by any means. I'm 75 now and in good health, so who knows why. Story 91. My emotional health. Being a young woman thinking the love, lust, and adoration of a man is what defined me. 3 severely broken hearts later, and now I'm wise but jaded, numb, angry more than I want to be, have anxiety, and am impatient. I wish I could go back in time, but I can just teach my daughter to never ever feel that way and build her own confidence in the things she loves and loves to do, not from what a man thinks of her or if she is lovable. Story 92. From age 9 or 10 to age 17, I drank 4 to 6 liters of soda per day and ate whatever I wanted. Now, I am 27. All the weight I painstakingly lost was put back on over the last 4 years, and then some. Granted, I haven't drank regular soda in a year, and even that was 1 glass of fresh root beer. Other than that, every year it's been since I was 17. My diet soda addiction took over after that, and then it was 4 to 6 liters of diet soda, and now I got it down to 1 liter. It's something I'd rather dive into a wood chipper than fully give up, and I'm in the painstaking task of losing it again. I'm not looking for advice. I know and knew how to lose weight. I just lacked motivation. Still lack it, but I have my personal reasons. But that's how I fudge my health over and will permanently have back problems till the day I die, lol. Story 93. Long-lasting childhood abuse. On top of the CPTSD, I now also deal with fibromyalgia, OCD, a personality disorder, and a dissociative disorder as a direct result of what I went through. I just started therapy this year. I'm healing, but it's going to be a long journey. Story 94. The focus on weight and dieting. I was put through unrealistic diets starting age 12. I pursued weight loss with despair until age 29 and have been in recovery for atypical anorexia ever since. 5 years of therapy later, I'm okay. I am now obese. There's a good chance my metabolism is wrecked more than it genetically was. I have PCOS and insulin resistance. Ages 9 onwards. All I heard was how important it was that I just try to lose weight. And I tried, and I even achieved both weight loss and maintenance of that weight. But then I lost access to my meds, and life just became madness. I spent years desperate and obsessed. All I was told was to please try to lose weight, and I thought I just wasn't trying hard enough until I stopped eating. All of this was enabled by well-meaning but blind dietitians who just lowered and lowered my calorie intake at every diet. Thankfully, the last one I saw recognized my ED behavior. I probably owe him my life or my sanity. Now I focus on variety in my plate and in my fridge. I focus on movement for joy and pleasure. I focus on other good habits like sleep and meditation. And I take care of my little wrecked body. 2 burnouts have helped the destruction further. Story 95. 1. Lyme disease. But also, 2. The iatrogenic downstream unraveling of my health and fitness because of the widespread misinformation, disinformation, and lack of understanding in the medical profession surrounding Lyme disease complex 3. The inability for me to uphold my normal health and fitness routine, diet, lifestyle, supplements, etc., due to the poverty resulting from the impacts of debilitating illness in my career. Story 96. Smoking definitely ruined my health. I had a stroke in February and then a heart attack in August. I am no longer able to do strenuous work, and with the pain on my left side of my body, I am unable to walk more than a few steps without having to stop and rest. Story 97. Not ruined, as I'm feeling quite awesome, but relatively ruined. I'd say the nutrition my parents imparted on me. I was a competitive swimmer in high school, and I'll take the blame too, I guess. I just didn't learn or know about hitting macros back then. I didn't eat enough protein, like at all. If I had just been hitting my protein macro through high school, I would have been incredibly happier in my physique for the next 20 years, which I am getting to now. Story 98. Cigarettes. The worst thing you can do. No cancer, but there's plenty of other health problems, along with losing your looks and feeling rotten all the time. I can't believe they still sell them. Just goes to show you how little the government cares about anyone and how greed is more important than millions of lives. Story 99. I work in a territory sales job, meaning I have to drive around to different stores in the territory, and all of the driving is seriously messing up my back. I'm 77, so hopefully it does not become a permanent thing, but I feel like I can't continue with such a driving-intensive job in order to keep my back healthy. Story 100. Doritos were my friends, honestly PTSD, and depression really has morphed me into someone I don't really want to identify with anymore. I've learned to just be kind and simple and take happiness in even the most smallest of interactions and situations because time is short, and although I'm 41 now, I don't let those two disorders affect me, and I try to help others going through the same thing. Story 101. Life really. I was born with a fudge-up skull and ovary tumors that grew and grew and grew. That fudged the body up. I got some Frankenstein scars because he was a shoot doctor. Luckily, my brain doctor has an excellent hand at stitchery. Those are pretty. Story 102. My mother was well-intentioned, but sadly immature. She still held a very high school mentality about social interaction after I was born. And since all of my hobbies were a little more on the nerdy academic side, she encouraged me to pursue those hobbies and not feel pressured to be a jock. I wasn't taught anything about exercise and was never enrolled in a physical activity. Now I am in my 30s and catching up to my peers in terms of health. I feel better than I ever have in my life, but I often wonder how flexible and strong I would be if I had started young. Edit. Missed a word. Story 103. I'm sure it was a factor of things. I was morbidly obese, I vape, used to be an alcoholic, and I was extremely sedentary, eating the worst foods and caffeinated off of Starbucks and sodas every day. Oh, I also lived with mold for 4 years. Maybe my health isn't ruined, hopefully not, but slowly working on becoming healthier. Story 104. My ex-wife, she was very controlling and had a really short temper the whole time we were together. I got to a point where I never wanted to say anything to her. She would sit around the house and do absolutely nothing while I'd be at work. We've together for 15 years, and I've never seen her sweep mop the floor, clean the bathroom, wipe the counter, or anything. The only chore she'd do is the laundry and very occasionally the dishes. The laundry was her deal anyway because 90 of the clothes were hers. She didn't cook and would intentionally wait until she got hangry. It was my job to prevent this, apparently. If I ever said anything about her lack of effort, she would get mad and not talk to me for weeks. She also would go through phases where we were very intimacy active, like 5 to 7 times a week. Then a month later, she would be falling asleep in my son's room with him. She'd tell me to wake her up and get mad if I didn't, but sometimes she looked irritated when I did. Or she'd go right in the room and lay down and knock out. She would do things like antagonize my dead sister's chihuahua who lives with us. I could either A, tell her to stop before she gets bit, or B, let her keep messing with the dog until it bites her. Either way, the outcome is her being mad at me. There was so many problems that she would create and get mad at me for reacting to them. She would start an argument with me, then get mad at me that I didn't hug her while we were beefing.